Siamavi nuvilra talayahseriya mahna solua. From the deep I rise once more, sovereign soul for a shore. I return to my inner sovereignty. I am whole.
Welcome, dear listener. Well, this is my first and perhaps my only attempt at doing a podcast in English, upon request. So please listen with an open heart and see the courage behind it, not just the unmistakably Flemish accent. Here we go. Today I invite you into a journey that reaches far beyond the stars. You can see with your own physical eyes. A journey into the Akasha, a place where nothing is truly lost, where every soul carries memories that may sleep beneath the surface of an ordinary consciousness, waiting for the right frequency, the right sound, the right moment to awake. And today we are opening a very particular door, a door that leads toward Arcturus. Arcturus, maybe I pronounce it very bad, but you all know what I mean. Perhaps you have looked at this brilliant star before without knowing why it captured your attention. Perhaps the name Arcturus simply feels familiar. Perhaps you have felt drawn to the blue light, crystals, sacred geometry, sound, frequency, healing, ancient knowledge, or the mysteries of consciousness. Or perhaps you have never thought about Arcturus at all, and yet something brought you here. So for a moment, you don't have to decide what is real and what is not. You don't have to understand everything with your mind. Simply listen, because the Akasha does not always speak through explanations. Sometimes it speaks through recognition. Imagine now that you are standing beneath an infinite night sky. Above you, countless stars are shining, but among them, one light begins to become brighter, golden, amber, almost orange. Arcturus. Arcturus? Ah, yes, that will be with me all through the podcast for now. And as you look at the star, you realize that you are not simply looking at a star, you are looking at a doorway. A doorway into a field of consciousness that has been described for countless generations as ancient, intelligent, and deeply connected to the evolution of consciousness. And as you move toward that light, the world around you begins to change. The stars become patterns, the patterns become geometry, the geometry begins to move, and suddenly you realize you are entering the Akasha. Here, knowledge does not sit inside books. It lives inside frequency. And somewhere within this infinite field, the Arcturian story begins. Who are the Arcturians? Within the Akashic field, the Arcturians appear not simply as an extraterrestrial civilization, but as a consciousness deeply associated with evolution, frequency, and the architecture of awakening. They are often described as beings of crystalline intelligence, tall, slender, graceful, with elongated forms and large, luminous eyes. Their appearance may be perceived in shades of blue, silver, gold, or opalescent white. But these physical descriptions are only translations, because the deeper you move into the Akasha, the less important their physical appearance becomes. Their true signature is not a body, it's a frequency of clarity, of intelligence, of precision, of compassion expressed through understanding. They are often called the architects, the engineers, the grid keepers, the navigators of the spiral. And perhaps there is a reason for this, because the Arcturian consciousness seems fascinated by one extraordinary question. How does consciousness evolve? How does a soul move from fragmentation into wholeness? How does being remember itself after entering a world? How does a being remember itself after entering a world of limitation, density and forgetting? The Arcturian answer is not domination. It's not control, it's not obedience, it is understanding. They do not come to say, follow us. Their frequency whispers something very different. Understand the system and then transcend it. And perhaps that is one of the reasons their energy can feel so different. They do not ask you to surrender your discernment, they awaken it. They do not ask you to abandon your mind, they teach the mind to become an instrument of consciousness. And they do not separate intelligence from love. They bring them together. Wisdom with compassion, knowledge with heart, structure with freedom, frequency with form. This is the Arcturian balance. And perhaps this is why so many souls experience their energy as both incredibly gentle and incredibly powerful. They let the frequency speak. There are some beings you understand through words. There are others you recognize through vibration. The Arcturian frequency belongs to the second kind. So rather than telling you everything about them, let us pause. Let us allow the music to open the next door. Because perhaps the Arcturians would say, you do not need to understand the frequency first, you need to feel it. So certainly listen to the song afterwards. Take a breath and notice what remains in you after you listened to the song. Perhaps nothing, perhaps peace, perhaps emotion, perhaps an image, perhaps a sudden knowing. There is no correct experience. The Akasha speaks differently to every soul. When we enter the deeper layers of the Arcturian story, we encounter a beautiful idea. That consciousness itself has architecture. Just as a building has structure, so does an awakened mind. Just as a planet has energetic pathways, so does a soul. And just as music contains harmony, rhythm, resonance, and proportion, so does creation. This is where the Arcturians become associated with sacred geometry. Geometry, in this understanding, is not merely mathematics. It is a language through which consciousness expresses itself. The spiral, the circle, the triangle, the sphere, the flower, the infinite patterns hidden inside creation. And perhaps the Arcturian consciousness sees what we sometimes forget, that the universe is not random chaos. There are patterns within patterns, cycles within cycles, spirals within spirals, and consciousness itself moves through these spirals: birth, experience, forgetting, remembering, integration, expansion, return, again and again and again. This is why the ancient image of the spiral is so important when we speak of Arcturus. They are sometimes described as the navigators of the spiral, not because evolution is a straight line, but because evolution returns us to the old places with new awareness. You may revisit an old wound, but you are no longer the person who first experienced it. You may return to an ancient question, but now you carry another level of consciousness. You may encounter the same pattern and finally choose differently. That's evolution, not escaping the spiral, learning how to navigate it. The Arcturian soul signature. And now we arrive at something deeply personal, because the Akasha does not only tell us who the Arcturians are, it can also show us why certain souls feel an inexplicable connection with them. Perhaps you have always been fascinated by sound, not simply music, but the way sound changes the body, the way one tone can calm you while another creates discomfort. Perhaps certain frequencies feel like medicine. Perhaps silence is not empty for you. Perhaps silence is where you hear the most. Maybe you receive sudden insights while you are walking, driving, cooking, taking a shower, and suddenly the answer arrives, complete, whole, almost as if you remembered something rather than learned it. Maybe you are fascinated by systems. You don't only want to know what happened, you want to know how everything connects: people, energy, nature, consciousness, cycles, patterns. Maybe you have always felt that there is a deeper architecture beneath the visible world. You may be drawn to crystals, sacred geometry, mandalas, I hope I pronounced that right, stars, ancient civilizations, sound healing, light, frequency, or the Akashic records. Or perhaps you simply carry an inner feeling that you are here to help something become more coherent, not to save everyone and not to fix everyone, but to bring something back into alignment. This is the signature of the Arcturian archetype. The soul that wants to understand, the soul that wants to remember, the soul that wants to transform complexity into clarity. And sometimes the soul that feels strangely at home beneath a sky filled with stars. Because they are the grid keepers. Let us travel deeper now, because the Arcturian story is not only about consciousness within the individual, it is also about Earth, Gaia, her energetic body, her ancient pathways, her sacred places, her ley lines, her mountains, her waters, her temples, her trees, her stones, her vortexes. Within the Akashic vision, Earth is not merely a planet. I talked about it earlier in another podcast. She is a living field of consciousness. And the Arcturian connection with Earth is often described through the concept of the grid keepers. Imagine Earth surrounded by an immense network of luminous pathways. Some pass through mountains, some through ancient sacred sites, some through oceans, some through the places humanity has forgotten, and some pass directly through you. Because the human being is not separate from the planetary field, we are part of it, and perhaps this is why certain places affect you immediately. You arrive somewhere and your body knows. You walk into an ancient building and something shifts. You stand beside an old tree and suddenly you feel deeply connected. You enter a sacred place and you don't need anyone to explain why it matters. Your body already knows. Perhaps this is what the Arcturian frequency teaches us, that consciousness is not only something we think, it is something we inhabit, something we resonate with, something we move through. And this brings us to Atlantis, the temples of sound. In the Akashic memory of Atlantis, there are stories of people who worked with sound, crystals, geometry, and resonance. Temples where sound was not entertainment, it was technology. A tone could alter the atmosphere of a room. A harmonic sequence could bring coherence to the body. Crystal could be used as an amplifier. Geometry could focus vibration. And the human voice could become an instrument of healing. Whether we understand these memories literally, symbolically, or somewhere between the two, there is something beautiful hidden within them. The idea that healing does not begin with force. Sometimes it begins with resonance. You don't force a string to vibrate, you bring another string into harmony. And it begins to respond. Perhaps this is also the essence of the Arcturian way. They do not fight they do not fight darkness. They change the conditions in which darkness can exist. They don't endlessly battle the old pattern. They introduce a new frequency. And when the new frequency becomes coherent enough, the old pattern can no longer maintain itself. Light does not always need to fight darkness. Sometimes light simply needs to become more coherent. So, as you listen to the songs of Na'Tari Kai Lum, perhaps imagine the sound moving through an ancient crystalline temple. Not outside you, inside you. As if some forgotten architecture is being illuminated. That's why I listen so much to the music. And the music always makes me feel good, helps me, give me solutions. The language of Arcturus. How would you communicate if words no longer were necessary? Perhaps you would use color, perhaps sound, perhaps geometry, perhaps intention. This is how the Arcturian language is often perceived, not as sentences, but as complete fields of information. A single tone can carry emotion. A geometric form can carry knowledge. A color can activate memory. And a thought can become a bridge. This is why the Arcturian frequency is so closely connected with sound. Sound moves through space, but it also moves through us. And perhaps this is why a song can sometimes awaken something that 1,000 explanations cannot reach. You hear a melody, and suddenly you remember a feeling, a place, a person, a dream, something you cannot explain. The mind says, "Where did that come from?" And the soul simply smiles. Because the soul does not always need an explanation. Sometimes it only needs recognition. The Arcturian way. There is another quality that belongs deeply to the Arcturian archetype. Detached presence, not coldness, not difference. Presence without entanglement. Imagine standing beside a river. You can love the river, you can understand the river, you can help someone who has fallen into the river, but you do not need to become the river. This is an important teaching for consciousness, to love without losing yourself, to serve without carrying everyone, to understand without becoming trapped in another person's story, to see the larger pattern. This is why the Arcturian energy can sometimes feel incredibly calm. It's not because they do not care, it's because they see more than one moment. They see the spiral, they see the pattern, they see possibilities, and they understand that consciousness cannot be forced. It can only be invited into greater coherence. I'm sorry, in my book I compared them with Mr. Spock, but that actually is a compliment. So, why is this happening now? And perhaps this is the question that brings us to the present moment. Why are so many people suddenly fascinated by stars, frequency, consciousness, ancient civilizations, sacred geometry, sound, Gaia, and multidimensionality? Why are old memories resurfacing? Why are people questioning the structures they once accepted without thinking? Perhaps because we are entering another turn of the spiral. And the Arcturian frequency in this Akashic understanding is not arriving for the first time. It is becoming recognizable again. Like a song you have heard before, a melody hidden somewhere in the deepest chamber of your being. You may not know the words, but when the music begins, you know the melody. Perhaps that is what awakening really is. Not becoming something you were never before, but remembering what was always there. Yes, the return of the grid keepers. So perhaps the return of the grid keepers is not about ships suddenly appearing in our skies. Perhaps it is something much more subtle. Perhaps the grid keepers are awakening within humanity. The healer who listens, the musician who works with frequency, the person who protects an ancient tree, the one who restores sacred places, the one who follows the ley lines, the one who creates art that changes consciousness, the music, the one who chooses coherence instead of chaos, the one who sees systems and understands that healing must reach deeper than the surface. Perhaps every time someone brings harmony into a place that has forgotten harmony, the grid is being repaired. Perhaps every time someone chooses love without losing discernment, the grid becomes stronger. Perhaps every time someone remembers that Gaia is alive, another light comes on. And perhaps this is what the Arcturians have been teaching all along, not become like us, but remember who you are. The remembering. So now, before we close, yes, it makes me emotional that this is really happening. So now, before we close this journey, return with me for a moment to the place where we began, the Akasha, the infinite field of memory, the place where every experience, every frequency, every possibility seems to leave an imprint. See Arcturus again. See Arcturus once again, that brilliant light in the northern sky, and imagine that somewhere beyond the physical star there is a field of consciousness, blue, gold, crystalline, silent, intelligent, compassionate. And perhaps you don't need to know whether you have ever been there. Perhaps you don't need to know whether you are a starseed or not. Perhaps you don't even need to give an experience a name. Simply ask yourself, what happens inside me when I hear the name Arcturus? Do you feel peace, curiosity, a vibration, a memory, a longing, nothing at all? Whatever your answer is, let it be enough. Because the Akasha does not demand belief, it invites remembrance. And perhaps the deepest Arcturian teaching is not about traveling to another star. Perhaps it is about becoming so coherent with yourself that you begin to recognize the architecture of your own consciousness. The mind becomes clear, the heart becomes wise, the body becomes sensitive to resonance, and the soul remembers its direction. And suddenly, the universe no longer feels like something happening somewhere far away. You begin to understand that you are a part of the same living pattern, the spiral, the geometry, the music, the light, the consciousness, all moving together. And perhaps somewhere in that immense cosmic symphony, Arcturus has been singing all along, not calling you away from Earth, but reminding you how to be fully here, how to walk upon Gaia with awareness, how to listen, how to feel, how to see beyond the surface, how to bring coherence where there is now fragmentation, how to become a keeper of frequency in your own small corner of the world. And perhaps when you hear the next song, you will not listen only with your ears. Listen with your body, listen with your heart, listen with the quiet space behind your thoughts. Because maybe there is something there that your mind has forgotten, but your soul already knows. The song that I'm thinking about now is the Arcturian Remembering. As the music fades, don't close the door completely. Leave it slightly open, for some doors in the Akasha are not meant to be closed. They are meant to become a part of the path. Until next time, dear listener, keep listening. Keep remembering. Keep following the frequency that brings you closer to yourself. And whenever you look into the night sky and see that brilliant light of Arcturus, perhaps you will remember this. The stars are not always asking us to travel to them. Sometimes they are simply reminding us that we were never separated from the greater story. And perhaps the Arcturian frequency has never been far away. Perhaps it has simply been waiting for you to remember how to hear it. Thank you for traveling with me today through time into a story about our star family, and for being willing to open your time, your attention, your heart and your mind to this little piece of the story. I hope this tale has touched you, inspired you, or perhaps awakened your longing to explore the deeper layers of our history. To go where no man has gone, where no woman has gone before. Be sure to listen to the song that follows. I also leave the links of the other songs in the description. Did you find this episode meaningful? Hope you didn't find my accent too horrible? Then you can help me enormously by giving this video a like, sharing your thoughts or feelings in the comments, and subscribing to the channel. This way the troubadour of the soul can reach even more fellow travelers who long for stories filled with wonder, connection, awareness and hope. I look forward to meeting you again in another story. I follow my inspiration and intuition. Will you follow yours? Take good care of yourself, take good care of one another, and above all, take good care of our beautiful living earth, our Gaia, our home, our mother. Until next time, dear fellow traveler, and remember, in the farewell you can hear how love continues its journey. Bye bye for now. Psst, hey, I almost forgot to mention that besides speaking English, I am actually jumping over another big threshold with this one. The little piece behind this is a glimpse of how I weave light dance through movement, guided by the music. And believe me, that's a very big leap for me, being that visual. You'll find the links to the music channel I base everything on in the description. So go listen, explore and enjoy the journey. Welcome to the Akasha Wonderland. Oké. Ik ga mijn lichtdans laten geboren worden en de wereld insturen. Vandaag bij een lied van Arcturus.
Should